Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
Welcome, everyone. We're happy to have you all back. I've been eyeballs deep in PD. I love it, but it's a struggle. I think, since COVID, we have this new way of connecting with people, but it's saturated, I think, with webinars where there's just a ton of them. So it's hard, and we have to try to find different ways to allow teachers to learn either in person or through webinars or, some other great ways. But at the same time, recognizing this has been a tough year. And as we've seen, the toughest year yet, as we've heard from many. So we have our favorite professional development guru with us today. Jerri, are you happy for this? I am.
Oh, absolutely. Rich Czyz is back with us. I wonder when Rich sleeps, because last time we had him here, he was the author of the book 4 O'Clock Faculty. And then he also has a website and he does a lot of professional development online. He's always on social media. He's one of our best social media posters. We praise you all the time, Rich, for all of the social media work that you do. We're so happy to have him back and to talk today about that professional development and how do we continue the journey of growing and learning when everyone seems to be really exhausted. So welcome to the show, Rich. And would you agree this has been one of the toughest years yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is probably the toughest year I've ever experienced as an educator, and I know a lot of my colleagues as well. So definitely a tough year, but we're coming through it a little bit and starting to turn around.
Well, we are glad to have you here today, and you've written a new book. Can you tell us the title of your new book?
Sure. So the new book is called Rogue Leader: Make the Rules, Inspire Others, and Take Control of Your Own Professional Development Destiny.
All right. So when you're talking about leader, you're not talking about school administrator, are you? In particular?
So it could be a school administrator. It could be an instructional coach. It could be a teacher. So it's really not about the title, behind your name, but more so about your energy for professional development and excitement for it, and how you can not only take charge of your own PD, but then inspiring others as well.
Right. And this is so important. I was talking to a teacher the other day, and she said in the spring, her district highlights people within the district that have talent. And people are usually fighting to get to be a speaker. And this year, people were not applying to do it. They couldn't get people lined up. And they all said, we're just exhausted. So that's what we're hearing, Rich. How can we help?
Yeah. And what I like about Rich is that, it's not just giving advice, it's giving advice from your expert experience, because you are a building level principal, building level leader. So you are feeling it right along with your staff. What are some tricks that you are coming up with to keep people motivated? It's not like people don't want to learn. We don't have the energy or the time. So this professional learning, we have to keep going to grow and be better and learn to, use it to build on ourselves. But what are some tricks that you're finding that you're using to deal with the stress, deal with the lack of time, and deal with, the social emotional aspect of it that we need as staff too?
Yeah, it's been incredibly difficult. And I think it is about the time piece is number one. So it's finding the time. And I think that can be difficult. It's also about recognizing where our colleagues are coming from. So I know as a building principal, it's kind of taking the pulse of the building and figuring out, we do have a PD meeting scheduled or a staff meeting scheduled for Thursday, but I can kind of tell where everybody is right now. And maybe we don't need to do that staff meeting. Maybe I can give you the time back to catch up on some of the things that you need to catch up on, whether that's, the logistics of lesson planning and, other things that teachers have to do versus, me kind of pulling them together to give them something that is not necessary.
I'm sure that is much appreciated to get that back, especially, toward the end of the week. You've got this meeting coming up, but you have so much else going on. And to get that time back is such a simple thing for you to do as an administrator. And probably you're a little bit relieved too, because that's a lot of work on your end as well. But certainly an easy thing to do, yet so much appreciated, I bet.
Yeah, I think teachers do appreciate when you give them any time back, right? That's, when you're expecting to come to a meeting and all of a sudden, you get that email at 2:30 for me saying our 3:45 meeting will be canceled, but here's a list of things that, you could or should be working on at that time. When I was in my previous setting as a principal, we were just having, it was just that time of year. And I had a kid come down to the office for a discipline issue. And he was from a class where the teacher never sent anyone to my office for discipline. So I knew as soon as she was sending someone down that something was going on. So I talked to the student and, I basically asked him what happened. And he said, I didn't do anything. I swear I didn't do anything. Right. And so I said, okay, stay here for a few minutes. I'm going to go talk to the teacher. And when I walked down to the classroom, as soon as I walked in, she said, Rich, I know I shouldn't have sent him. I'm just at my wit's end this morning. And so I kind of walked back. I talked to the student and, handled the issue. But then it was just dawning on me, like if she's feeling stressed, he's feeling stressed, right? I could just feel in the building, there was that sense of, just weight on everybody's shoulders. So we had a staff meeting coming up. And, I joke in the book about, my first reaction was make sure you come to our staff meeting on Thursday. And, but what I did is I told everybody to make sure that they wore comfortable clothes. So, in my previous building, my partner in crime was my PE teacher. So I went to him and I said, listen, everybody's kind of stressed out. What can we do to, have some fun, right? Like let's, instead of doing the staff meeting, let's bring everybody together. And he kind of came up with the idea of, human hungry hippos. So there's
Love it.
Yeah, a very fun activity. So there's videos of it online, but it's basically what you would imagine is teachers getting rolled out on their belly, gathering a lot of balls with baskets and bring them back to their own area. So we did that for a little while, and then we played a game of dodgeball with the staff, and it was probably the most intense dodgeball game I've ever played in. But afterwards, like the next day, you could feel just the weight lifted off of everybody in the building. And so I describe it probably as the best staff meeting that I've ever done, right? It was a game of dodgeball, but it was just what the staff needed at that moment to kind of take some of that stress, release it, take some of that anger out. And it was great. It just lifted everybody. And because the teachers were lifted, the students were also lifted. So you can just feel that sense of relief on everybody's part. Was like, okay, now we can get back to learning and we can get back to work.
That seems to be the ultimate stress reliever for sure. And I think it really must have been powerful the next day to come in and feel that new energy and that relief of stress in among staff. And then, like you said, probably then students, right? Because it's a trickle down effect for sure. And for you, because if you're feeling stressed, then it's going to have that trickle down effect. So it really, kind of benefited everybody. But you made me think too, that it's probably really hard, but so important as a school administrator to not, and for a teacher and for a student, for anybody, to not react and instead respond. But what you're able to do is, instead of reacting, really think hard about what you're observing and what you're seeing and get to the root cause and utilizing your empathy, your sense of empathy. And that was the only way that you were able to see what that root cause was, and not that, the teacher is just, sending a kid to the office just because, but there's a reason for that. So that was really, I think, an important thing that you did to be able to really see through all that to what the root cause was and address that right straight on.
Very insightful.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think it was, for the teachers to recognize that whatever it was that we were going to do at the meeting, right, is secondary to how everybody is just responding to each other, right? And I've been there as a principal and a disciplinarian, and I've been there as a teacher, and you have your moments when you're kind of, you've had it, and somebody needs to give you a break, and students know that, students recognize it, teachers recognize that, administrators. So I think it's just important for everybody to kind of take a moment, step back, whether it's canceling a staff meeting, or even, just restructuring the time that you're using to use it more productively.
So what are some of, you said that when you cancel, you say these are some things that you could do instead. What are some of those ideas that you share with them?
Yeah, so some of it I do. I use a weekly SMORE newsletter where I share out videos and links and different resources. So sometimes I'll just share like, hey, we're not meeting today. Use the time for what you need to use it for. But here are 5 or 6 different resources you can check out. The other thing, and I steal this from a colleague in New Jersey. Her name is Maureen Hayes, but she calls it sneaky PD. And it's the types of PD that people kind of don't even realize. So I know a couple of years ago, potty PD was all the rage, where you would put, a little, sheet in the bathroom where you have a captive audience, maybe with a QR code or 2 on there. We
did that non-tech years ago too. I think we called it something else, but yeah.
Yeah. So as people are kind of captive there, and I know some people didn't necessarily like that in the bathroom. So Maureen and I know a couple of other people came up with the idea of copier PD, right? So when you're standing at the copier, it's a time when you have to be there, and let's put something up there for you to learn about, even if it's a link to something, throw the QR code up there that they can scan with their phone real quick. But even learning something, the 2 minutes that you're waiting for your copies to be made. So I think trying to find those small things that we can do for teachers that aren't necessarily going to, cost them hours and time, or even add additional time to their day. At the end of that day, 6 hours, the last thing you want to do is sit in the meeting with me kind of talking at you. So, even when we are having those meetings, I think discussion-based is great because everybody gets to participate and learn from each other. And, it's those little things that we can do to help teachers kind of through, as you said, the most difficult year that most of us have experienced.
Right. And on some of that sneaky PD, I love that you do the little bite size PD, because sometimes that's all we can take in. Do you put things such as well-being tips, curriculum, technology? What kinds of things do you do for sneaky PD?
Yeah, so I think all of those things, I think definitely curriculum and instruction, right? So whether it's a quick tip on, how to, better manage your class, or how to get kids engaged. I think definitely technology resources, always trying to learn about new websites and just try to teach them to others, but also the well-being piece. And I think for that, some of it is kind of productivity and making sure that teachers are efficient. So whether it's an idea for lesson planning or batching lesson plans, or, whatever it may be, trying to give them those time-saving tips that are also going to help them just make things easier for them. If I can take anything off of their plates, I consider that a win. So when I can, give them a strategy that's going to help them save time, that's definitely a win for me and for them.
Right. I was going to say they consider it a win as well and really appreciate it. Well, you've talked about the bite size and the sneaky PD. What are some other flexible ways that you provide PD for your teachers?
Yeah, so I think the other thing is, doing the opportunities where it's not necessarily a required PD, right? So if it's voluntary, you're doing something like a coffee EDU, where teachers are just coming together around a cup of coffee, just to have conversations. And I think through that conversation often comes collaboration, right? Here's something that I'm trying, Maybe you'd like to jump in and try this with me, or maybe you'd like to kind of take it in your own direction and try it a different way. And I think through those conversations comes a lot. We've done virtual book clubs as well. So we've used the Voxer tool online to get people talking amongst each other. And what's great about that is that it's asynchronous. So they can kind of check in when they're available, and it works out really well.
Yes, I love Voxer, and I like that I can listen to it in my convenience, and I can reply when it's convenient for me. But I also like that I can go back and listen to what everyone else has said. And that's so nice.
Yeah, and I think we just finished up a book club for Rogue Leader. We're actually finishing this week, but it's been a 4-week book club, and people from all over the country have jumped in. And it's great to hear different ideas and hear how people are doing differently in their buildings or districts. And it works out well when you have somebody who's on the West Coast and is leaving a message at a certain time, versus me. I'm listening to the messages on my drive in the morning. And so the asynchronous piece, I think, is great for people who are busy, who have other things going on, but it still does allow them to participate in that professional development.
Now, Rich, is this a book club that you do online, not particularly for your teachers? They could join if they wanted, but for anyone?
Yeah, so it has been open to anyone. As I said, we're finishing up now. I'll probably run another one in the summer, but really.
How would you get involved in that if you wanted to be a part of it?
So all the information is on 4o'clockfaculty.com.
Okay.
And through my social media as well. So I'll share that information out when we get ready to do the next one over the summer.
Oh, that would be great. And people would use Voxer to join it. Yeah, that's great.
It's very clever and flexible. So that's really helpful. And I love the whole theme of the book because it just seems to be really empowering. The people who have the book or are part of the book club, are they leaders, admin? Are they, as we talked about earlier, could be anybody, but who are you seeing as part of the book club? Do you see teachers? Do you see instructional coaches? Who do you see joining?
We have a combination of everyone. There are a lot of instructional coaches in the group. And it's funny because I think with my first book, The 4 O'Clock Faculty, and then this is kind of the follow-up to that book about professional development, I do see a lot of people who are tech facilitators, instructional coaches. The people who are doing the professional development on a regular basis are the people who are reaching out and innovating and sharing their ideas and collaborating on those things. When the first book came out, we started a book club, and it went 4 weeks. And after that, the group just decided to continue on. That was 4 years ago at this point. So that group is still alive and well today, now known as the 4OCF PLN, Professional Learning Network. And the conversations that happen in that Voxer group on a daily basis are amazing. And the group kind of jokes that it is now a PLF, a professional learning family, right? And people together there are learning and growing. And I couldn't have asked for anything else from, my role in just hoping to inspire others with professional development. And I think that's all that we can ask for, is getting people to join in, to connect with others, to learn, and to share that learning. And, that's really been the power of those connections and the power of, the first book and hopefully the power of this. But a lot of instructional coaches, a lot of, teachers who are trying to stretch themselves, get out there, and then administrators who are looking for different ways to do things as well.
Right. Yes. So is this a closed group now because they've been together for 4 years, or is it something other people could join in now?
Yeah, so there have been people who have joined over the 4 years, and I know every so often I'll get somebody who hears about it and wants to join, and I always ask first just to make sure that everybody's okay with it, but I think they're definitely open to new people as well.
Oh, that's great. And look what you've started.
I know, it's so special.
Yes. Yeah, you're just pushing it forward. I was wondering, what are the big PD topics that people are talking about right now?
Yeah, so I think it was interesting because when we first were sent home during the pandemic, right, it was all technology based. And
yes,
we kind of, right, everybody was reluctant for the 10 or 15 previous years as far as like jumping into technology. And then all of a sudden, within 6 months, we completely turned everything around with technology.
Whether they wanted to or not. Yeah.
Everybody's kind of like tired of the tech end of it and the Zoom calls and everything else. But I think SEL is a big one, right? And not only social emotional learning, but also staff, social emotional learning and well-being. And I know I've even done some sessions with teachers this year as far as meditation. We had somebody Zoom in with us at the beginning of the year to have teachers do a meditation. But I think it's also about how to get back to some of the basics in the classroom, right? So I know a big one this year for us has been engagement, right? How are we engaging kids now that they're back in the building? What are we doing to kind of help them adjust and adapt to the classroom?
Yes, that seems to be a big one. And I'm thinking, some of we had on the show the toughest year yet. Jamie's niece was on the show saying how difficult it's been, as I think she's a first grade teacher, how difficult it's been because the variety of skills now is so much wider than it's ever been before. And so I can see where people really need the support of each other and other people's ideas to help them get students engaged.
Yeah, it's funny because I had the same conversation with my first grade teachers as well. Has been collaboration with students in the classroom. And for most of the students who were sitting at home for 20 months by themselves and were able to do everything they wanted at any point in, like I'm just going to get up and go to the bathroom whenever I feel like it.
Yeah,
we heard that.
We
right?
did.
Like now being back in the classroom and having to work with others and having to understand that others have feelings and others have needs. So we've even been talking about just working with students to do to play games, right? And how do we follow the rules together? And how do we sit together and play and let somebody else take a turn and not throw a fit when things don't go our way? And so we actually did some things outside with students. We kind of did some team building and social emotional learning tricks and games with our students, just to kind of get them experiencing that difficulty of working together and working through it. And I think that was very helpful for our students as well as our teachers. So I know the teachers are very excited about doing something again in September when we start school, and really delving into that with students to kind of support them in that collaboration piece.
That's a great idea. Learning and fun all at the same time. Yeah. I bet the kids
certainly collaboration and cooperative learning has always been essential, but really is necessary right now because of everything that we've been through. So, and it's important to, set it up properly. And just like you said, at the beginning of the year, get it going so it becomes part of their norm. So good stuff.
Yes.
Good.
Anything else in PD that's a hot topic right now? SEL? I mean, that's a huge one.
Yeah, so I think SEL, I'm also doing a lot of research into decision making and how students make decision and how we can teach them to make better decisions. So really thinking critically about different resources and things like that. And I know even in terms of having students kind of evaluate what they're learning. So they're hit with a lot of different information, and it's kind of analyzing and evaluating, figuring out how do I take that information and then synthesize and make a decision based on that, right? And so I've been doing a lot of research into that, a couple of different books about decision making that I've been reading. Actually, one of them is by Annie Duke, who is she was a world champion poker player, but she talks about decision making and what goes into it and what kind of bias we're bringing to that. And I think that's another big piece, is like, what type of personal bias are we as adults bringing to a certain situation when we're thinking about a student and how to support them best in the classroom. So I think that's been something that I've been interested in. I know I've seen a lot of work around equity and bias in a lot of different schools. Obviously an important topic today, but really supporting teachers in kind of, decision making for themselves as well as for students also.
Right. Have teachers had a tough time too coming back after being home? Was it difficult transition, did you see, for them?
Yeah, I think it was a difficult transition. I think most teachers were excited to be back.
Yes.
In front of them. I think, working from home and at first it was very exciting, right? Because it was something new and different for students. And then it quickly lost its luster, right? So trying to then bring kids back into the classroom. And I think the difficulty was the transition between, some kids are still at home, some kids are in the classroom. How do we manage both of those groups at the same time? But then figuring out, once we had everybody back in the classroom, is okay, now we need to get moving. And how do we do that again? Because kids aren't used to it. You're not used to it. So I think it was a struggle, for most of this year. And like I said, I think we're starting to come out of that a little bit, but we're also, in my district, I think we have 6 or 7 weeks left. And it's trying to still manage engagement for those students as we kind of finish out the year.
Yes, keep them engaged and going. That's critical.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've always struggled with spring fever, but this year is just a whole other level. That's for sure.
Yes, I am sure. Well, Rich, we like to ask one question at the end of our show each time. And that is, you have done so much with PD and staff development and individualizing it, and you're just all over the place with it. But what's the one thing that's become clear to you with all of the work that you've done here?
Yeah, so I always struggle with trying to change PD systems, right? And
oh, yes, the system.
I think the piece that has become clear to me is that it's going to be all of us, right? It's not going to be me changing PD systems. It's all of us that are kind of responsible for the profession. So, when I'm taking charge of it on my own, but I can also inspire others to do that. When others are kind of taking charge of it, it's going to take all of us to change those systems. So, when we think about professional development as that dirty word in education, it's clear to me that everyone is going to have to take their responsibility for making a difference and changing professional development as we know it.
That's such a good point. It really, really is. I like the way you phrase that we're all responsible for our profession, right? So, and for growing that. And no one can argue that we need to evolve. And there are new things and challenges that exist all the time that force us to, just as we saw with COVID, whether we wanted to or not, we all jumped right into ed tech, whether we were ready or not also. But we need to find ways to continue that growth, but do it together and have everyone as a stakeholder involved and sharing that instead of, forcing it. That's not going to do anything on your end. So instead having everyone a part of it. And, that choice is so important, and embedding that in restructuring that system is really the way to make it work, for sure. Yeah.
Right. Well, where can people find you, and what kinds of things can they expect when they do find you online?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I am on Twitter and LinkedIn. So on Twitter, R.A. Czyz, CZYZ. And then everything can be basically found through the website, which is 4o'clockfaculty.com, FOUR o'clockfaculty.com. And there I'm usually blogging about 4 times a week. So I try to put up about 4 posts Monday to Thursday. So you can find, I think I'm up to like 1,500 blog posts at this point. So there's a lot of old resources that are there, All of the book links are there. There's a lot of different resources linked to the book there as well, that you can find and use even if you haven't read the book. So everything can be found on the website, but most of my time online is spent on Twitter or LinkedIn as well.
All right. One quick question though. Give one tip for keeping up with a blog series that is 4 times per week.
Yes.
That's a lot. One tip for that.
Yes.
So I guess my biggest piece, I normally batch all of my work. So I will, I guess at this point, I'm a prolific writer in the sense that I try to write every day. When I'm actually working, when I'm working on the book, I'm usually up at 4:30 in the morning to write before everybody else in the house is up, and I get a good 30 minutes to an hour by myself just writing before I have to pack any lunches or get anybody up or do any of the household things that need to start the day. But even if it's not that, I try to write in bursts. So if I'm sitting at soccer practice waiting for my daughter and I'm in the car, and I have 10 minutes, usually I'll type in a couple of notes on my phone that will lead to a post somewhere. A lot of times I'll go back and look at old posts and kind of repurpose them or, think about it a little bit differently and write a new post. So I'm a big fan of Seth Godin, who writes every day, and he has posted every day, I think, for I don't know how many years at this point. But he always says, if you can't come up with 2 sentences a day, then there's something wrong. So I think as long as you're thinking, my goal is always to share that thinking with others, and hopefully it will inspire one person. That's always my goal is, I kind of write for myself, but if I can inspire one person out there by sharing what I'm thinking about, then I think that's, kind of my responsibility to share that as well. So.
And your inspiration for topics for your blog?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's stuff that will happen in school. I remember I wrote about high five number 21, and I was in line. I was giving high fives to a series of students.
Right.
I high fived the first 20 kids, and the 21st kid, right before he high fived me, sneezed into his hand and then high fived me. Right. So it was kind of a comical thing to write about. But
it's honestly my greatest fear, but
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
But beware of high five number 21.
Yeah, I love it.
And then we kind of got into what has happened the past couple of years. But it's the moments during the day that are inspiring me. Sometimes it's things that I'm doing with my own kids, that inspire me. But it's really anything that's an inspiration. Sometimes I'll hear something on a podcast. I know even a couple of weeks ago, I listened to one of your podcasts, and it was on communication with I think it was Rogers, right?
Yes.
And communication with families, and that one I listened to and was blown away. So from there, I had to write kind of what I learned about communication and sharing with parents, and so shared that out as a post. So it's really inspiration from anywhere and everywhere. But throughout the day, whatever I think will kind of work as a post. And like I said, sharing out my thinking, because I think it's important to kind of collaborate with others in terms of sharing out that thinking.
And I love that about you, because you take just the common things that are happening to all of us, the common experience, and you just think deeply about it and make it a little bit more. I love that. That's great.
Thank you.
You bet. Well, thank you for all that you give to the educational community, because you give so much of yourself and your time, and you're a great connector and bringing people together. And that's such a gift. And we appreciate the work that you do. And I know so many other people do as well. So we thank you for doing that.
Thank you. And I appreciate it. And, keep up the great work with the podcast. I love listening to it. And, it's, again, amazing for just getting ideas and putting them out there. So thank you for all the work that you do in inspiring educators as well.
Yay. I'm so happy that, Jerri, we were actually able to help inspire Rich's circle. I love it.
I know.
Yes.
Yes.
But also what we are proud about, I know that you've retweeted our tweets about this, Rich, is our type of flexible PD and how we take our topics and we put them into themes on choice boards. So that way you can, as leaders or as teachers, you can take these, listen to every three, and then submit them for 0.5 CEU credit. Do as many as you like. So we get new people every day. So it's very exciting to see that it's helping. And I think these themes have really just, again, just kind of helps people to synthesize around these themes as well, to looking at different hearing from different perspectives. So, and I know it happens to me every day when we get to meet with people. So we're happy to do that too. And part of it was inspired, Rich, by your rogue PD tips as well. So good stuff.
Absolutely.
Round and round. All right. Thanks so much, Rich. We really appreciate it. Can't wait to hear what's happening next time.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube.